In this video, we're going to talk about the Pythagorean Theorem, which is probably one of the most famous theorems in all of mathematics. So before I give you the actual theorem and the formula, I'm going to tell you about how this formula came to be. So back in the day in Greece, Pythagoras was trying to figure out the missing side of a triangle, and he realized that if he were able to build a square off of each side of the triangle, so for example, here's a square, and each side of this square is 3, that's going to give him an area of 9. Then he built another square off another side of this triangle, and that had an area of 16. It was a 4 by 4 square. And so what he did, what his theory was that he could take the 16 and the 9 areas, and he can add them together and get 25. So then he said, what if I made a square where the area was 25? What would each side of the square have to be? And each side of the square with an area of 25 would have to be 5. And then he said, okay, well now I can figure out that if the two sides of these triangles are 3 and 4, that I can build a side that is 5, and that would be the missing third side of this triangle. So in order to use his theorem, it has to first be a right triangle. And a right triangle is going to have two sides to it here that meet at a right angle. That's what makes it a right triangle. I always remember that the two sides that make the right angle also make a capital L, and those are called the legs of the triangle. And we usually refer to these as the letters A and B. There is a third side, it's called the hypotenuse. And the hypotenuse is the longest side of the triangle. It is directly across from the 90, and we refer to this as your C variable side. And so if this is true, then the formula is A squared plus B squared equals C squared, where A and B are the legs and C is the hypotenuse. So to look at a few examples, here I always like to find my legs. So here are my two legs, 6 and 3. I'm going to do 3 squared plus 6 squared equals x squared. 3 squared is 9, 6 squared is 36. And if I add these together, I get 45 equals x squared. Now, in order to do this, I'm not going to be getting decimals. I'm going to be simplifying radicals. I need to take the square root on both sides. The perfect square that goes into 45 is root 9 with root 5, and this simplifies to 3 root 5. If you need a refresher on simplifying radicals, because I am going to go a little bit faster in this video, go ahead and click on that link first so that you can get that refresher on how to simplify radicals. So for number 2, here are my legs. So here's my capital L. Even though it's backwards, it still works. I'm going to do 5 squared plus 12 squared equals x squared. That's going to give me 25 plus 144 is x squared. This is a total of 169. And that is a perfect square. So x equals 13. Number 3, here are my legs. Here's my capital L. Root 5 squared plus 9 squared equals c squared. When you square a square root, you're just going to pop out the number that's under the radicand, because that's really root 5 times root 5, which is just 5, plus 81 equals c squared. Now, sometimes, even though this number is large, you cannot factor out a perfect square. So we're just going to say that c equals root 86. Now, for the next few questions, we are going to have to do a little bit of additional work. The first thing you'll notice in number 4 is that 1, you have the hypotenuse and you don't have both legs. So one of the legs is missing. You should also be aware that one of the units is in inches and the other one is in feet. So personally, I would not change 25 inches to feet. I would change 2 feet to 24 inches. Now, if I'm going to write my equation, I'm still going to put that the two legs squared added together And in this case, those legs are x squared and 24 equals the hypotenuse squared. X squared plus 576 is 625. Now, in the other examples, I was adding them together because they were on the same side of the equal sign. But here, I have to solve the equation by starting to get x by itself. So I'm going to take away 576 on both sides, and I'm left with 49. When you take the square root, you get that x equals 7. Number 5 doesn't have any units, so we don't have to worry about converting anything. Here's the capital L for your legs. X squared plus 5 squared equals 10 squared. X squared plus 25 equals 100, which means x squared equals 75. The perfect square that can be factored out of 75 is root 25 times root 3, and so x equals 5 root 3. Number 6 does have the units differently, but this time it's telling us to convert everything specifically to feet because it wants the answer as x feet. So if you have 8 yards, that means you have 24 feet. And if you have 360 inches, if you divide this by 12, that means you have 30 feet. So here's your legs. 24 squared plus x squared equals 30 squared. You get 576 plus x squared equals 900. And so x squared equals 324. 324 is a perfect square. The answer is 18. And of course, the answer is going to also be in feet. Number 7, it's looking for this missing side. Find your L. We're going back to just some basic numbers. 2 squared plus something squared equals 8 squared. You get 4 plus x squared is 64. X squared is 60. The perfect square that factors out of 60 is root 4 with root 15, and so x equals 2 root 15. And for the last one, this one we haven't done before where you're squaring a square root. So here's the capital L, x squared plus. You have to be careful because this is the entire side. So you have to square 3 root 5, the entire quantity squared, equals 4 root 18 squared. When you square something like this, you're going to square both parts of this term. So you're going to do 3 squared, which is 9, and root 5 squared is going to just become 5. That's going to equal, if we do the same thing in the other one, 4 squared times root 18 squared. So you get x squared plus 45 equals 288. That means x squared is 243, and the perfect square that comes out of 243 is 81 3 times, and so your final answer is 9 root 3. Stay tuned because in the next video we are going to talk about the Pythagorean triples and how you can kind of use a shortcut to get the Pythagorean theorem answers. That's all for this video. As always, if you found this video helpful, make sure you hit like and subscribe. You can find this resource along with many others on my Teachers Pay Teachers, which is Math with B.